What is up, crypto gang? Welcome back to another episode. If you guys are new here, we do a giveaway at the beginning of every single episode, and today's winner is Vergil Boutel. Thanks so much for commenting on the previous video with your Bitcoin wallet address. If you guys want to win next time, like, comment, and subscribe with your wallet address in the comment section below for a chance to win. In this special episode, I sit down with the one and only Crypto Blood. We go through some of the old school things that were going on in the space in 2013, 2014, 2015, like Mt. Gox, Cryptsy, and all these older exchanges that were only these kind of ticking time bomb type things. And if you may have noticed, I'm wearing this new headset, and that is partially because I'm sick and I need my voice to be a little bit clear when I talk. But this headset is pretty big, pretty large. So without further ado, let's dive into me sitting down with Crypto Blood.
It's been like a year, right, since we've been on together.
Yeah, that's right, man. We were talking while there was blood in the water. There was a lot of silence in the space. And when we spoke last, we talked about like Cryptsy, Big Vern, like all these old exchanges. And like when Gox went down, it was pretty chaotic, and then it was silent for a while after that.
Yeah, it was. And good pick. Again, I forgot to say this for the second time. Good pick on the song request. Kevin Gates, 2 Phones. This is a classic right here.
That's
Definitely
right.
a classic. So we're rocking out to that. But yeah, man, Big Vern, all those, man, those are back in the days. Like, what do you think about, because you've been in crypto for a while then, so I forgot. What do you feel is going on now, man? Like, how do you feel about cryptos nowadays, the whole industry as a whole? Like, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I feel optimistic about a lot of the things that people are building out. I think that there was a project years ago in 2014. It was called CoinGen, and for all the OGs out there, CoinGen was like just a fork that you could quickly create an altcoin. And I messaged back and forth with Richie from Bittrex and literally got a CoinGen coin listed on Bittrex within a few hours of doing it, and free of charge, just messaging back and forth on Bitcoin Talk, the forum where everybody used to communicate.
Yeah.
And
that's where all the back then it wasn't ICOs, it was just like new coin publishers, and they were all, that was like the format. You had to put it on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
You put your supply, your float, and all that.
That's right. And it was much more of a communal effort.
It was.
Like.
And that's what I was trying to get to with my question. It's kind of a loaded kind of question. Like, I don't feel that anymore in the game, in the crypto community.
Yeah, and I think that that's just a product of like a ton of people coming into the space, when there was a ton of hype, and that's always going to happen. And there's a lot of really brilliant minds in the space, and the concept of a pecking order where it's just everybody in this tiny little space is all pecking at each other and arguing about these different things within a tiny little subset of the world. And it has drifted a little bit away from what feels like a communal all boats rise effort, where it's like a cohesive win when we all come out with something new. Every time Crypto Blood comes out with a video, everybody's sharing it to show support across the community. Those types of things were what it used to feel like. And it was like everyone all together trying to get the word out. And now it's become a little bit more tribal, it feels like, with people looking inward into the community instead of trying to look outward, which is a bizarre thing to watch. But
it seems like a money grab now.
Yeah, a lot of trading, a lot of traders out there. And I mean, it's just how things are playing out. I mean, we don't know what it's going to look like in 5 years from now. Nobody knows what's going to happen, which is kind of the magic. Nobody knows. If people claim that they do know, they're not.
Yeah, they don't know, because we didn't know back then. We didn't know what was going to come of this whole experiment. It felt like a huge ass experiment at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Yeah, but I think even so, more so on the when I say money grab, not even so much for the individual participants in the crypto game. I think I'm more so talking about all these corporations, all of these Wall Street guys and organizations jumping in on this. It just seems weird, man. Like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like the community. Again, I guess that's why it doesn't feel like that close knit community we used to have, because we have these mega corporations trying to, capitalize off of blockchain,
Hmm.
and or Bitcoin in particular, especially like the Wall Street guys. So
Yeah, and it is kind of sad. Seeing some of the older projects going out. Like, I don't know if you read that Vertcoin got 51% attacked
I
this
saw
past
that.
week.
Yeah, I saw
And
that.
I mean, Vertcoin was one of the first core wallets I ever downloaded. And I
Mm-hmm.
was super
Mm-hmm.
excited about it. It had a huge community back then, a few
Mm-hmm.
thousand people. And I remember being so excited about the whole thing. I was like, this
Yeah.
is this is so cool. And altcoin has so much hype next to Bitcoin. Like, this is wild. So it was kind of, I don't know if they're still, do you know anything if they're still continuing on
I
after the
don't.
attack?
I don't know if they're going to continue or not. I just saw the headline and did see that. So I'm not too
Yeah.
sure if it's going to continue or not. I don't see any information on it at the moment.
Yeah, because that
Yeah.
feels like the end of a end of an era. If people are still actively mining Vertcoin, and then somebody came in and I think they rented a bunch of hash power from Nice Hash and just 51'd it.
They've been doing that more often lately, being able to use cloud mining to really leverage up, and hack and 51% a lot of these smaller coins, you
Yeah,
know.
and it wasn't profitable. Like, I think the math was like it took the attacker zero point 0.4 Bitcoin to do the attack, and I think if they would have dumped everything, it would have been half a Bitcoin.
Mm,
So it was like only a couple $100, if maybe
mm.
$1,000 to attack it. And I don't know. I feel like doing something like that just seems out there to me
How
that
do you
someone would
feel
do it.
about, even we're talking about like a change in the crypto space? How do you feel about the direction that Bitcoin is actually going in? Do you because again you're an OG, so you can kind of understand and see the transformation, and the evolution,
Mhm.
and change is normal. That's change is what we have in life, right? The only thing constant is change,
Yeah.
but you're either changing for the good or changing for the worse, And just wanted to get your opinion on Bitcoin's evolution.
Yeah. I mean, I think after Gox, a lot of people watching and listening to this that were around when that happened. I mean, people thought it was over. People legitimately just thought that the whole thing was completely, that the experiment of Bitcoin was done. Like, there was so much negativity in the space,
Mm-hmm.
it was unreal. And you
Mm-hmm.
remember that. And
Absolutely.
it was crazy because people that had a lot of money in it, were panicking, watching those Reddit posts. I still have one indexed on my laptop
That's funny.
from back then. People saying that they had dumped everything that they had and capitulated to get out, because they
And
were just,
remember back then when Mt. Gox did get hacked, CNBC comes out of nowhere and says Bitcoin was hacked. They were using that narrative instead of saying like the exchange was hacked. So
yeah.
that lingered on for like a year and a half or so. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
know if you want to call it disinformation or misinformation. Not sure, but whatever way, whatever method, it definitely deterred newcomers, because they
Oh
thought that this new technology, this new coin, could be hacked.
yeah. Yeah. That was a rough time for sure. So I still have not seen anything like that happen in recent years. Like, that was by far the apocalypse, where everybody thought, all right, this thing's going to zero. This thing is just totally done for, because the biggest exchange was done. Like this would be like if Binance and Coinbase went down, and back then in relative terms. So it was like
Correct.
just a total nightmare scenario for everybody that was already involved. Seeing things like CNBC coming out and spreading this information, and businesses like Shrem's company, BitInstant, going down, like all these companies that had customers in crypto, it was a nightmare scenario. So I have not seen anything like that relived, which is good. I look at that as a good thing.
Yeah.
And zooming out, in terms of everything fundamental to Bitcoin, it looks good. I mean, we're still seeing like decent hash and decent mining. And I know that there's like a lot of argument around centralization with mining and things like that.
Yeah.
But
let's talk about that. How do you feel about that, as far as, because it is centralized in my book. If you want to just be technically speaking, it is very centralized, and it's centralized between 3 entities, all of which are in China. 2 of them, I believe, are actually owned by one entity.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
So I talked about this on my stream with Richard Hart last week, and he like laughed at this theory that's out there. And the theory is that the current financial system works on transactions. Like a bank makes a lot of its money from fees, like transaction fees, and payment processors exist because they make off of a transaction fee. To facilitate a transaction, they make money. And the theory is in a dystopian futuristic world, banks will become the mining centralized areas where they are confirming transactions and taking those fees and keeping that business model of, thriving off of people's transaction fees. And that is effectively what miners are doing by confirming blocks. And that theory is a wild one, that's how institutions and banks, like central banks, would contribute to the Bitcoin network, is they would just be miners. And I know that that's like way out there, but I think it's a fun thought exercise to think about what's currently surviving and the lifeblood of transaction fees. And that is the central bank institutions and the banking system very heavily surviving on that. So it's like, okay, what would happen if it shifted into that? And I don't think that it's an ideal scenario, because then they control transactions and things like that. But
at the same time, like, and this is what I've been like really stressing to people, like, I think there's still people in the community that think that that will be at some point have this, they have this idea of fully decentralized.
Yeah.
And I think that's a pie in the sky concept. And the reason why is because if you go that route, if you go absolutely fully decentralized, then you're going to have, when I say decentralized, I mean decentralized in governance or law. Like, you're going to have collusion. So how do you deal with collusion if you're just going to let it be a fully free market? You're going to have that happen. You're going to have, I mean, you see it with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
There's collusion in the mining industry.
Yeah. And what we saw,
how do you fix that? Do you fix that? Is it I mean, these are questions that I don't know if anyone has an answer to, but these are issues that are coming up because we're dealing with a new technology.
Yeah. And like your hat, EOS, that was a prime example of when they moved into DPoS, delegated proof of stake, and cartels started forming.
Correct.
Like people started working together. Exchanges had huge bags of EOS, so they were like, "All right,
still do.
We're gonna stake and be one of these producers." Like, why not?
Yeah, why not? Why not
work together with all the other exchanges? And it really, I think people had thought about it, but people didn't really think about it through practice and see how big of an issue it was going to be.
Because you never
And
know. When you in software development, and this is what it is essentially. This is all software development. When you develop something, you don't know what to fix until you put it into the wild and let
mhm,
the end user use it. And in this case, the end user is just the market
yeah,
utilizing this and figuring, seeing, how the players in the market react and try to game the system.
yeah,
And that's what's happening with EOS right now. It can be fixed, but those are unintended consequences that they didn't think about, and you can't think about everything.
yeah.
You
A
know.
new DPoS that's really interesting to me is Icon. I don't know if
Okay.
you've been following them.
No.
So I'm actually on a team that is a block producer, I guess you could call it, but it's a PREP or public representative that is a validator on their system. And it's very similar to EOS, where people vote top 22 representatives that help with governance of the network.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been really fun to watch that, like as a front row seat. And I've been helping with the AC3 is the team that I'm a part of, and we're partnered with Mousebelt. That's an accelerator program, and it's a lot of fun to watch what's going on, because unlike EOS, things haven't quite shifted in the direction of like big exchanges going on there. There was one that people were really upset about, but it was interesting to watch people just arguing over what's going on with the PREPs, how they're regulating or how they're governing the network. Proposals keep coming across our desk for like people that are trying to get funding for building apps and dApps. And it is cool to have a front row seat on what it looks like from the other side. But in terms of the one thing that I brought up earlier about the banks, there is this weird mentality, and similar to your point about how Bitcoin is changing, there is this concept now of that Bitcoin or just crypto in general will replace banks. And I just think that it's short-sighted for people to hear that and think about that, because if anything, they are going to get involved in something that's demanded by consumers. In the economy, consumers drive what businesses do. Like consumption controls 70% of our GDP. Everything that we consume altogether drives what businesses are going. They react to our consumption. So if you go to your bank and say, hey, are you guys going to hold my Bitcoin in the future? If everybody does that for a year, banks are eventually going to adjust and say like, yeah, sure, we'll hold your Bitcoin for you. We'll be your custodian.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to be like, oh, we throw in the white towel, all of our billions in profit, we're done. Bitcoin wins. That's just not how the most powerful people in the entire world are going to react to a new technology. They're going to adopt it. They're going to bring it in-house. They're going to learn about it. They're going to help contribute to you as a consumer being
Mm-hmm.
able to use it. And once regulation and all that catches up, I just think it's not and this was another thing that I talked about on that previous live stream, was that just thinking that this is the one all solution and it's going to replace everything in the world, like the entire financial institution,
It's
is
not
just
going to. No. And I think we had that idea initially. I know I did. I think a lot of people in the community did. Like this Bitcoin was just going to be the world reserve currency, replace all fiat currency. Bada boom, bada bang. Just that just that simple.
all the day's work.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just not, man. I had that idea. I had that naive stance as well. Now, no, I don't even think fiat currencies are going to be fully eliminated. I think they're going to just transfer into what I'm calling crypto fiat.
Yeah,
Their
digital
own
money.
issue, yeah, their own issued cryptocurrency, you know, and the masses will adopt it as they always do. You know, you push something on them, and because they don't know, most people don't understand what real money is, sound money is, and what it isn't. So I think they're going to adopt that. But I think that in that transformation, you're still going to see the Bitcoins of the world appreciate in value against all of those currencies because they're going to be open-ended. They're going to be inflationary currencies, unlike Bitcoin and some of these other ones. So,
yeah, and in most cases, I would even say that people in the future won't even know that the technology is operating in the background with those fiat crypto hybrid type things. Like they're not gonna know that, like, the encryption technology that exists behind it, and they're not gonna think about it. It's just gonna be dollars, but it's just gonna be a more technologically advanced way of using money. So totally agree.
Look at what I actually reported on this the other day, as far as Germany becoming a crypto haven. So they passed some laws. Essentially, it gives them the ability, banks there in Germany, the ability to store and sell cryptocurrencies. So there you have it, like something that's absolutely not necessary, but but they're doing it, and the generation that came before us, they feel comfortable with that. That's what they know. They know banks. And so the banks are adopting, like you said, they're taking this technology and they're bringing it into their ecosystem.
Yeah. And there is from an economics perspective, there is a tipping point that happens where at a certain threshold in 5-10 years from now, the younger generations than both of us, and even after them, will have lived in a world where digital assets and cryptocurrencies have existed longer than without them. So there will be a time where it tips to the point where they're more comfortable using these things because they've been around them for their entire lives.
Yeah.
And
that makes sense.
That type of thing is going to happen in the next 5-10 years. And one important point to mention, that part of the reason that I'm really into this space and very active on social media is because millennials, or our generation, we in 2023, the average millennial will turn 35, and we will only control 3% of the wealth. Now, with baby boomers, when they were 35, I believe they controlled, I think it was like 18%, something like that. And Gen Z, or no, is it Gen X?
Gen X.
Yeah, Gen X, they controlled, I believe it was 10%. So it's a clear decline.
Correct.
And I'm very advocating for this space because I think the wealth creation that's going to happen in digital assets and cryptocurrencies over the next 5 and 10 years will change that wealth redistribution. Like that wealth redistribution will happen with the younger digital age, and we can actually jump back on track potentially to something.
It's funny you talk about and you bring up baby boomers, because I just had Ted Seidel on. I was telling you about before we recorded. He is his research and stuff, and it makes sense. He's like, people think that the baby boomers took it all, like they're gonna leave, basically with it all while everything crumbles behind them. And he was like, actually, it's not the case. They're going to be screwed just as much as the millennials because of pensions. And I said, wow, I didn't think about that. So it's the baby boomers are definitely taking the wealth with them, but it's a very small percentage of the baby boomers. It's not all of them. And he kind of helped me realize that. I'll have to send you a link to the interview, but
yeah.
I think, and so I said all that to say, I think that cryptos will be able to help those individuals as well. Those baby boomers that were relying on pensions and Social Security. Can't say savings.
Yeah.
That doesn't do anything in a zero interest rate environment. But maybe, just maybe, cryptos can help buffer and give them some relief.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to fact check myself, even in 1989, boomers were 35 and they controlled 21% of the wealth. Gen X in
Okay.
2008, they were 35 and they controlled 8% of the wealth.
Wow.
And in 2023, when the average millennial turns 35, we will own 3%. So it's a pretty steep decline in terms of
Very steep decline.
yeah, in terms of the
I did
wealth.
not know that.
Yeah.
I
So
did not know that.
I think that there will be a redistribution, and I think digital assets and crypto is the biggest potential to trigger that for younger people that are already digital, all on their phones. Everybody's always online, connected. It just makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. And sometimes I get comments from because sometimes I have people on my channel that are non-crypto related. They're more experts in like precious metals and stuff. And so quite naturally, when I have them on, some of the comments I get will be from individuals that follow those people. And they'll say, well, what are you going to do when the power goes out? How are you going to use your cryptos then? I'm like, really? Like, you don't have $100,000 in your pocket right now. All your money is in Bank of America notes, credits, JP Morgan credits. You may have a small percentage of your net worth or liquidity in gold or silver, but come on, if the power goes out tomorrow, believe me, precious metals, cryptos, none of that is going to matter.
Yeah.
You better have some guns
Yeah.
and some some food.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of things that jump in front of money when the power goes out,
right,
in terms of priority, because that's a bleak situation if the whole world loses power simultaneously for a long period of time.
Yeah. No one's thinking about precious metals or crypto.
Yeah, and super nerdy on that one. I know people have developed a way to send Bitcoin via radio.
Low frequency waves. Yeah,
and that wouldn't happen, but I mean, it could happen.
It may happen for a little bit if I don't know, man. But yeah, theoretically, you can still transmit wealth.
We could hold antennas. We could hold antennas towards each other.
Exactly.
And send each other some crypto. But I get
man,
that.
If the power goes out, man, and actually, I'll give you one even better. If the power goes out, guess what medium of exchange people will gravitate to? I would say, let's say it's like a extended outage, a year or two. People will actually gravitate toward dollars, like physical dollars, because that's what we know.
Yeah,
we know the value. We know how to place a value there. Everyone knows how to place a value on a dollar or a $10 bill or a $50 bill, $20 bill. We know that.
Yeah.
Gold. No, you go out and ask the average person right now, how much is this ounce of gold? They're gonna say $200, $100. They're gonna be like, because the ounce of gold is very small, so people are gonna be like, I don't know, $100 when it's $1,500-$1,600 right now.
Yeah, and if the power did go out, barter would definitely come into play. Where I got a pound of steaks or something, and you got a pound of bread, and we just swap or something like that, and just play it, eyeball it, just like we used to do in like ancient times, eyeballing.
It'll be inefficient, but just have to eyeball it.
That's what we. But I think that the one most interesting thing that I've heard about dollars recently was that it represents freedom. What are your thoughts on that? Where it's like the
it does.
Dollar represents freedom. It does. In terms of anonymity and everything.
It does. It absolutely does. unfortunately, they're getting better at clamping down on that type of stuff, cross-border transportation of dollars.
Hmm.
You know, if you have more than 10K going through the airport, you have to report that. It's a form I have to fill out and submit and everything and before, or TSA is going to be hassling me. So they're getting, you know, so the portability aspect of it across borders is becoming a little bit more difficult to handle and do, even across state lines. Like if you get caught with $50,000
Yeah.
by a state trooper under the Patriot Act, it's called forfeiture. They can take that money from you. It happens. It's happened to in my community as a black person. It's happened to many, whether or not the money was legal or not. You know, you have, like, you know, street guys, money gone because they can't account for it. They can't show you the paper trail on that money. They can take that money under the Patriot Act. So,
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, it does. I mean, if you're talking about just in an everyday, day-to-day thing, operation, yeah, day-to-day life, absolutely. If you have, you know, $1 million in $100 bills, you're pretty free.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And I think that the people that do have mattress money and they carry around cash regularly are the type of people that would enjoy something like a Bitcoin. I think
agree.
that they're the most the most likely to understand the sovereignty of it.
Correct.
Like that you're fully in control. If you have a wad of cash in your pocket, somebody comes and shoves you down and takes it, then it's the same thing as if you lost your private keys. You know, it's the same self responsibility and self accountability that they're already comfortable with.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, at this point, I would say cash is even more anonymous than Bitcoin. At this point, you know, with all these technologies, all these groups that are doing chain analysis, chain analysis, you know, doing all. So, if you don't know how to properly tumble and mix your coins and stuff, you know, you can be in some trouble there.
That's right. So what do you think about the Vergil thing with Ethereum? What are your thoughts on that?
I read the article. I read a couple of articles, actually. Very stupid of him, in my opinion. He seemed like very arrogant or something. Because if you read in the article, it says that he actually mentioned that he wanted to go over there to sell them some type of crypto equipment, hardware or something in 2000. Yeah, in 2018 or 17. 18 or 17. And he was like, not, I don't know if he was bragging, but he was saying that he was going to do that, but he was warned not to. So that, I think, is when he was put on the list, like, to be watched. And then he decides that he wants to go over there for this crypto conference or whatever. Again, warned not to, and chose to go anyway. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and there's definitely, in terms of, a lot of people are talking about freedom of speech and stuff like that, but he it's a little bit of a gray area, because he was actively showing people how to bypass sanctions that were put in place.
So I heard, I heard that there were accounts or witnesses that said that he didn't try to do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was nothing like that. But it doesn't matter. My whole point is, I'm not even talking about that part. Just the sheer fact that you decided to continue to go over there is going to put a spotlight on you anyway.
Huh.
If you went over there just for educational purposes, why are you doing that when the government explicitly told you that is a country that is on the basically kind of like no-fly zone? You know, the sanctions are real tough over there in North Korea.
So what did he say exactly? Because if if it's coming down to like what he was teaching
So
people.
I don't know what this account wasn't from him. This was from someone that was there, I believe,
Uh,
that
uh,
said there was no type of stuff about sanctions and getting bypassing sanctions or anything. And you know, if you think about it, North Korea has very advanced technology and are already hacking. I heard that they were um, responsible for a large majority of the hacking in 2018 and 19 in crypto. So they already know what they're doing,
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
So I don't
yeah.
know.
That situation is really, really like I said, a gray area because if he was actively telling people like if he even mentions, these are ways that you can bypass laws and stuff like that using this technology, it is a question of is it on the person who implements it and does it, or is it on the teacher? Like who is um, who's the person at fault? Like the guy who created, what was the name of the 3D printed gun? I forgot the name of the
I remember that guy.
oh boy, it was called something like the Liberator or something like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And if people listening and watching haven't heard of that, he just created a CAD document that
Yep.
just allowed you to 3D print this gun, which was technically his freedom of speech and his ability to just put it out on, I think Pirate Bay was where he
Mm-hmm.
deployed it. But uh, it's a similar gray area where he was the guy who designed it and open sourced it and put it out there, and it was downloaded hundreds of thousands of times before they did their best to take it down. Because this was the type of thing that couldn't be detected on an airplane. This was the type of thing that could just
Yep.
be going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And to government, that was pretty much a big red flag there that they didn't want to have floating around on the internet. And it still floats around on the internet all over the place because it was out there for a while before they got taken down. But this is another.
What happens when we get to the point of decentralized internet? You know, when you can't take stuff down, it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah,
It's really gonna be interesting because you're gonna have, again, this is what I mean by what does fully decentralized look like? Is that something that can even be um, implemented in the real world? Because if it's fully decentralized, that means I can have pedophile stuff on there.
yeah,
I can have racist, Nazi, black supremacy, white supremacy. I can have any and everything will be able to be accessed on this decentralized internet. Is that something that we want? I don't know. I
yeah.
don't
I
know.
think the the money that would be made would probably be around filtering. Like you would be filtering through all of the cesspool of like hate and the stuff that you don't want
Mm-hmm.
to see. Um, I'm sure that I don't know. That is once again another gray area where it's like, do you want it? Do you not want it? And people would advocate for that they want it, but they only want the good stuff. They don't
That's what
want the
I'm
bad
saying.
stuff.
You're right. It's a black and white thing when it comes to that. Either you got it's on or off. No censorship, or you have censorship.
Yeah,
Because once you turn on censorship, that's an objective, that's a subjective thing.
yeah,
What is censored, what needs to be censored in your eyes may not be the same for me.
yeah. And I remember talking to Brad, the CEO of Unstoppable Domains, about
Yeah.
this exact topic a while back, and
What do you say?
I'm pretty sure I don't want to quote him exactly, but he was just like, "That's just how the freedom of speech works. Like everybody should have a voice. Everybody should be able to put things out on this decentralized internet. They should have the ability to say what they want to say." And it's still like we didn't nail down anything about like what you said with pedophiles and hate speech and all that like disgusting stuff that exists on the dark web and out there. And it's one of those things that no one will ever have a concrete answer, say like, yeah, let's allow all these people to just post whatever they want. No, I haven't ever heard anybody completely confirm that they believe that's the best route to allow like this crap to be out there. No one will put their foot in their mouth, no matter how many people I interview and talk to about it. No one will agree to do it, and rightfully so. I mean, it's just such a bleak subject, you know, like it's not good to have that stuff floating around.
No, it's not. It's not. But you know, again, how do you censor one? You know, it's just weird. And I don't know if it's something that we'll ever see fully occur, where we're just fully decentralized, free markets, unregulated. You know,
I do like the Dpos concept, like what I was talking about with Icon. I like EOS. I like that concept of like these people are voted into power, other than the exchanges, you know. But I think that it is a cool digital nation kind of idea where
they're close. Yeah. That concept is the closest so far that I've seen. It still has its issues, but it's the closest I've seen from a consensus algorithm. Yeah. It's very close to being really, really good. Like it's on the brink of it, because I like that 21, 22, whatever however you program it, but you got a set of people that are kind of the main BPs. But at any point, if the rest of the network combines and, you know, comes together, they can vote any of those 21 out.
That's right.
So I like that.
That's right. Like with a quick vote,
every
they can
2 minutes.
They can move a qualified representative out.
But that, again, that sounds good on paper, but then we see it in action, i.e. EOS, and I thought, you know, I'm like, well, why haven't we gotten a lot of these top 21 BPs that come out of nowhere and essentially buy their way into the top ranking? Why haven't we as a community gotten rid of them? And then I thought, there's no economic incentive for the voter necessarily to vote. A lot of people don't vote because there's no economic incentive, you know? Mm-hmm. So then those types of elements play, you know, into the whole equation, and you just kind of see how in the real world how these things actually operate, and they don't play out the way it is in the white paper. Yeah.
And I agree with you that is the closest, or the bleeding edge of innovation in the space from what I can see. Like there's some really cool and brilliant people working on that, and they're actually doing cool stuff.
Governance is going to be the hardest part of any blockchain.
Yeah. And one of the things that brought up on the Richard Hart stream was, he said, who are these representatives? Why are they qualified to make these decisions? And, you know, I made the case that it is like very democratic, like they're being voted in by the community. And he was just saying, like, they're not technicals, like you don't know their backgrounds, things like that. Like some of the team may or may not be qualified to be voting for projects to get funded and develop on the network and stuff like that. But I think it's more than reasonable to think that for the first few of these programs like Icon and EOS and stuff like that are rolling out.
Well, what is his solution?
He wasn't coming with solutions.
Okay, so if you don't give me a solution, you can't criticize another one.
Yeah, exactly.
In my opinion, that's what I would have thought. I'm like, what is your solution? If you don't have a solution, you can't sit up here on, you know, and criticize another. Yeah. Because there is no, I haven't heard of one that's better.
That's right. That's right. And that was part of the reason that I got involved in it. so deeply. Like I became one of the public representatives.
Because
On
I could say the same thing about proof of stake. I mean, proof of work. Who's qualified? You're not qualified to, just because you have a whole bunch of money. I mean, you buy a whole bunch of equipment and you set up a warehouse. All right, does that mean you're qualified? Does that mean you're trustworthy?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm still a big fan of proof of work. I know that a lot of people argue about the environmental impact and things like that, but I love the economics that Bitcoin brings to the table with the labor going into, all of it. I think that it's a beautifully designed system.
The issue to me with POS is that I don't know how scalable it is.
Proof of stake.
I mean, yeah, proof of work, proof of stake, yeah. I don't know how scalable it is from an environmental standpoint, more so. And, you start, it's like, it's really, it's exponential in its, in its path as far as difficulty. You start going 10, 20 years out, you're going to need the technology on the hardware side has to keep up. And then you have the whole situation with quantum computing.
Yeah.
How's that going to play into it? We didn't get a chance to talk about that. Maybe I'll have you back on to talk about quantum computers, qubits, and the whole quantum supremacy. Because I guess there was some article that came out that talked about, I don't know if it was Google or some other company. I think it was Google, because they just came out and said they had reached quantum supremacy. But essentially, there was some article saying that they could mine so much Bitcoin with these, hypothetically or theoretically, mine all these Bitcoins so fast with this quantum chip that it would move the difficulty rate so high and pass everyone else or something. It was some crazy scenario. And then Andreas was like, well, if quantum computers can hack SHA-256 or whatever, then mining Bitcoin is the least of our issues, because all of our internet is, secured by this kind of SHA-256, 512 algorithm.
Yeah, and quantum could just like decrypt. Right?
Yeah, it could, but again, he didn't really address the whole situation with Bitcoin and quantum. So I don't know, man. I don't know how is it going to pan out. We'll have to see. It's all still, man, relatively new. If you look at it, 10 years is nothing.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest experiments to ever exist for the financial industry. Totally greatest experiment ever.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Well, I got my man here. That was a great conversation, Steve. Thank you for coming on. Any last notes? Last thoughts?
No, thanks. Thanks for having me on, man. I'm excited to do it again, hopefully before another year passes. But
right.
I think we've been in this space for a long time, and it's a wild ride. So everybody just huddle on and don't get distracted by all the things that come and go. A lot of things are going to come and go. So just stick to the fundamentals.
There you go. It's your boy Crypto Blood. That's another Kicking It session with my man Steve McGarry.
That is it for my interview with Crypto Blood. I hope you guys like it. If you did, slap a like. If you guys are new here, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next episode of Hack Crypto.